Hi everyone, it's Bob Pulver. In this next episode, I am joined by Dina Bay from PitchMe. Dina discusses the challenges in talent acquisition, emphasizing the need for better candidate job matching. And boy, do we need that. She talks about the shortcomings of resumes and traditional hiring, which is why PitchMe created an AI powered real time profile using your digital footprints, which sounds very intriguing, doesn't it? Dina stresses the importance of measuring performance and process metrics and adopting the right technology to enhance efficiency and effectiveness. We also discuss the necessity of responsible AI usage and evaluating its boundaries in personal and professional contexts. And of course, we go a bit deeper on what else the average person needs to learn, do, and be aware of when it comes to elevating one's AIQ. I hope you enjoy my conversation with Dina, and thanks again for tuning in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Elevate Your AIQ. I'm your host, Bob Pulver. With me today is Dina Bay from PitchMe. How are you, Dina?
Hi, Bob. Thank you for having me today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for being here. So, why don't we start off just having you give me a little background. What brought you to PitchMe and how you guys started?
Yes, absolutely. So, my background is financial. So, I spent 12 years working in oil and gas doing M&As, but I blame it on my extreme level of curiosity that I ended up doing HR tech. We have been struggling throughout all my pretty much career journey. I struggled to get a perfect job by submitting CV because I don't have a standard and linear career background. But also, we struggled to employ relevant people when I was already working at the oil and gas. So I was just intrigued by why such mismatch exists, even though there is a fantastic talent pool out there and a lot of recruiters doing their job. And I decided to do market research with my future co founder. And we interviewed hundreds of recruiters, hundreds of candidates, and we ended up with probably the root cause and the main problem that we are addressing right now. And it's imperfection of resume and the concept of standard and A4 static paper as a professional profile presenting an individual. So this is how it all started, and a few years later, we are building an AI-powered real-time professional profile of individual using digital footprint.
That's fantastic. There's so much to unpack there. Certainly, I have had my own experiences with, square peg in the round hole, or a lack of internal mobility, and it just seems so illogical that you wouldn't, do everything you could to find the right spot for the people who you knew were already smart and loyal and good teammates and things like that. And everyone just kept fishing in another pond to try to, fill a specific role, which we know is going to morph. The minute you get onboarded, the role is going to change. So definitely appreciate that. But that's quite a pivot for you from M&A work in oil and gas. My pivot was not quite as dramatic out of enterprise transformation, but yeah, the talent space is fascinating. I just think there's so much upside if we can fix some of these sort of matchmaking kinds of issues with more data, more trusted data, and if we do it responsibly, of course. So when we think about some of the challenges in talent acquisition, what's their response when we talk about job description to resume matching? Do they acknowledge that and then just don't think that they have the means to change how it works, or they're doing it but they're doing it slowly, or
Well, that's a very timely question. So the moment we took our first MVP profile on the market, we thought that, oh, this is so innovative. Maybe the market adoption is going to be very bad and very low, and we would need to do a lot of marketing and user training. But in reality, what recruiters have been doing prior to us coming to the market is pretty much the same, but manually. So when they wanted to build a profile of an individual or a candidate, they were looking for social media, they were looking for external sources associated with this individual. They looked at the blogs and personal websites. So beyond resume, really. And when we took this product on the market, we immediately received the feedback how much time we save and how many hidden resources we actually find about the candidate, and how much non-conventional data sources we bring into the game that would have been overlooked otherwise. So I think from the early days we kept checking with the audience, like if what we're doing is relevant and timely in addressing their problem. So the overall concept of real time and constantly updated profile built by big data was very well received. Again, it becomes quite noisy right now, and I would say that the main challenge for recruiter right now is first to cut the noise and to really adopt a technology which is going to help and address particular challenge of particular individual or particular company. But this is a totally different story, and I think all parties involved should really help users to navigate through that a endless amount of new tech evolving every single day.
Yeah, it seems like the metrics themselves are not necessarily geared to the kinds of sourcing techniques, the type of data aggregation that would lend itself to improvements in real metrics. I know quality of hire is a tough subject because not everyone is measuring it, and if they are, they're measuring it in different ways. A lot of times, that's not talent acquisition. From what I've heard and the people that I've talked to, talent acquisition doesn't necessarily feel like they should be tied at all to that metric. Like, we did our job and we threw the candidate over the fence. Now they're an employee, and if they don't work out, then it must be it must be your problem. But it starts from the beginning, right? It starts from how you identify people in the first place, and I think everyone has a role to play to potentially catch a red flag or a yellow flag, and any potential issues up front. I mean, I guess I get concerned when I still see people focusing on like time to fill, time to hire. This isn't just about efficiency, because then you have a revolving door. And I described it on having the air conditioning on but leaving the windows open, right? So
Oh, that's spot on.
trying to have this optimal environment, and then it's just you'll never get out of your own way that way.
That's a spot on, and we are on the same page because I leave numbers. You obviously, Bob, leave numbers, but you will be surprised that even metrics that you just mentioned are advanced. So usually, I mean, we have around 500 customers that we currently work with, and only about 20% actually measure any performance or process related metrics internally. Majority of the numbers that we measured against are revenue per recruiter desk, or revenue per quota, or revenue per role field. But when we talk or when we ask them questions, but do you actually measure anything internally about performance, time to hire? I don't know how you're going to be measuring the ROI of this new technology that you are just adopting. Only 20% of the companies actually give us an answer. Majority so far ask us a following question: how other customers measure you? So we will do the same. And this is already promising because at least we can educate and align on the KPIs, but quite a few are not even there. They say, well, we will figure out once we will start using it. So, and it's a very interesting mismatch, because when you are going through the procurement process, and especially if a decision to adopt a new technology was made by the C-level, right? But the users are not do not have a buy-in, and they don't understand what this technology is actually going to help them with. Is it internal process? Is it new revenue stream? Is it, I don't know, just improvement of the internal unit economics of placements, etc.? It comes to a very poor adoption rate, and it comes to pretty low efficiency of the technology adoption. And sometimes we step in and help customers to actually set practices in place, set metrics in place. We insist on them actually requesting reporting, requesting the before and after from their users. And I think this culture is slowly but gradually building up. But I would say that this is the core challenge right now.
I guess one of the things, just from my brief experience in RPO, you didn't always have visibility to the rest of the pipeline, right? Like if you've outsourced the top of the funnel, it's another roadblock to trying to aggregate that data across the life cycle. I guess maybe it depends on how strong the relationship is between the RPO and the talent acquisition team. But just again, in my brief experience, it seemed like if you don't have that strong partnership and you're not sharing data, then it hurts everybody, because then you're not able to see what needs to be fixed. And on the RPO side, you're not seeing the fruits of, your effort necessarily. You just didn't have a bidirectional, data connection to see what happened to people that you spent all that time, sourcing and screening. And, it's to your point about performance. I mean, if you're not measuring that performance, then, you're just spinning your wheels, right? And you don't know how to improve and how to change to make things better. So anyway, I guess again, my question was really around like any differences that you see between like the team, whether you work with internal teams or external teams.
Yes, so we have a limited experience with in-house teams, but even based on that, it's more about process efficiency. So obviously, it's how many roles are getting placed within a certain time frame, and how many candidates getting screened in order to make a placement. So process efficiency, yes, in place.
What I love about the Workforce Agility Limited Series by Cornerstone was we talked to executives and customers all about skills. Cornerstone has a wonderful background in learning and development, training, etc. Their LMS is world class, but they've centered the business now, not just on that, like building upon that, but building upon how everything has moved to the skills economy. So check out the limited series called Workforce Agility, and you can get it wherever you get your podcast. And it's just a wonderful series where we talk to their executives on the shift of why, and also their customers that are using it. So check it out whenever you get a chance. Appreciate it.
But fundamentally, what I think we defined, it's come from the culture and the structure of the company. So if it's a smaller business and it's very horizontal, and everyone's been doing this job long enough, there are not that many analytical tools even in place, because everyone have been doing this role long enough. The processes in the company are very horizontal, and there is mainly one North Star metric, which is revenue, right? And everyone is working towards that North Star metric. There is no need, they think, at least, there is not much need to measure anything else like performance or process or unit economics of that placement, because the North Star metric is set in stone, and everyone is working towards that. But what we see happens when the company is slightly bigger than a medium size, and especially when it's vertically organized, and when the company is more generalist rather than a specialist recruitment agency. So they have different industries, they have different geographies. This is where the need for extensive analytics comes in play. And especially if the companies are right now going through reorganization and looking for operational efficiency. And this is where they go first. Like, let's look how we have been doing things, how much it costs us, how it works, what ROI we have. And on the one hand side, I understand that the market recession is not helping to some extent to perform and grow, but it actually helps a lot to rethink and reflect how things have been built in your company. So we rather take this as an opportunity to change something even internally, and we help a lot of our customers to do internal audit, to audit their internal database, the state of it, the external tools that they are currently using, to assess the effectiveness of those tools, or simply to understand use cases and benefits of this, Because when you can have a very honest conversation internally with your users, with your managers about like things are not working and what exactly not working, helps you to better address those challenges.
You're going deeper into the organization than I thought. Because you're able to do that, are there use cases where you're helping them on the talent management side too, or still just talent acquisition?
For now, we are just doing the recruitment and talent acquisition. But even during the acquisition phase, we suggest a hiring manager, including the talent acquisition manager, to assess the team and the team capabilities in the team they're hiring this person for. Because what we see a lot, that candidates are more aware about the career opportunities within the organizations, and they're going to be asking excuse me, how they're going to progress and what learning and development opportunities exist and how their role is going to evolve throughout the time. But by assessing a candidate and not assessing the team itself, there is going to be, again, a mismatch and gap. Because if you kind of like put the puzzle together and you understand what skills you are bringing in to solve the, I don't know, problem now or to complete the project today, you are hiring a person for a longer time. And you need to envision first how this person will grow within the organization, how this role is going to develop, but also you need to build a certain plan for this individual and assessing the opportunities you can give this person within the company. So what we have been doing for now, we are just assessing the candidate and the team itself.
So when you say you're assessing the team, so you're asking the team leaders and managers to provide certain, attributes of, each player on the team, or is it more, let's look at the metrics that you're gathering for the team dynamics, the team chemistry, things like that?
Yeah, so we do not interact with people. We sit on top of the databases. Would it be candidate database or would it be employee database? And we only work with the data points that the company is collecting. We can always go and look beyond internal data. So this is what we do by going and looking at the publicly available data about the candidates or employees. And usually it is sufficient because you, Bob, just mentioned that there are quite a lot of traits, digital traits, I don't know, social engagement or portfolios or examples of work or volunteering even, which can say already a lot about first plans of this person, passion of this employee or next career plans, especially if an individual is doing upskilling and finishing different like online education courses, you can definitely say and predict where this person wants to transition. So usually it's more than enough.
No, that's great. The AI that you're using, it sounds like it's more on the predictive, last generation of AI, not generative AI. Is that a fair statement?
So we have generative AI for job description, text writing, and candidate summary writing. So this is where we apply the latest LLM and Gen AI. But for our skills mapping, for the skills taxonomies, and for the overall kind of exercise and gathering big data and converting it into the profile, we're using, the old school AI.
Right. And this plugs in, I think you told me this once before, but this plugs into the ATS or the CRM or both?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. So I guess in between the candidate pipeline, the recruiting funnel, and you have the potential for candidate rediscovery in the CRM. But it just seems like, candidate rediscovery has been this illogically overlooked opportunity for a lot of companies as well. Like you just interviewed.
Pace of change in the world of business is fast, and that drives incredible complexity for the world of human resources.
Welcome to the HR Data Lab's Brown Bag Lunch, a series of conversations with experts inside and outside the world of human resources on how to innovate, measure, and evolve our practices.
Our goal is to help provide you with practical examples of how HR has to change and to meet in this complex business environment.
Every week, we'll talk to new and different voices on all aspects of human resources.
And guess what? You get to chat with us live.
Live?
Live.
So they can answer questions or they can ask us questions.
They can ask, they can answer, whatever they want. They get to talk with us live.
That's awesome.
Sometimes we geek out on the data and technology that underlie the processes that drive the world of HR.
But the conversations are always insightful and fun. So please enjoy the HR Data Labs Brown Bag Lunch.
What happens when employees behave badly? Boy, we could do an entire TV show, maybe a Netflix special on that. Well, Ryan and I sat down and recorded episodes for FAMA, and we asked practitioners, give us your most outrageous story. The sales leader that brings cocaine to work, whatever. Just bring us the outrageous, and it is funny. So if you need a laugh, which we all do from time to time, search for Workplace Misconduct wherever you get your podcast, and you'll find it. And trust me, you will laugh and cry, but you'll definitely laugh. All right. Thank you.
Some great candidates who were silver medalists, bronze medalists, what have you, and they're sitting in your CRM, and you already told them that you're going to keep it with their permission. You're going to keep that record in there for 6 months, a year. Why would it be there if you didn't have the intention of looking into that talent pool who's already expressed interest in working for you and you've already spoken to? The enrichment as well, right? Are your clients taking advantage of that capability?
Yeah, so you asked what the logic, and just to have records but not using them. And there was logic. The logic was that the cost of acquisition of a new lead was pretty decent. So until probably last year, so the new candidate lead might cost between $1.5 to $3, depending, like if you're searching for phone number or if you were just searching for an email address. And it worked well, because if you will place this individual, you will get success fee or a salary. Yes, it pays off this acquisition cost, right? But when we look at the scale right now and the severity of the external market conditions, where businesses started thinking about breaking even and being operationally efficient, even this cost is super sensitive. So it became a money game. So managing directors of agencies or talent partners, they looked at the asset that they already sit on, and it might be a couple of hundreds of thousands of candidate records, and it haven't been updated, not even for a year, but like for a few years. And they insist for recruiters to go and start using this database, but recruiters acknowledge that people might have switched jobs, they might become more senior, they might change location, so the data is just simply invalid, it's a bad data. So, and then it's a money game. So the cost of keeping your database updated and to update one candidate record is substantially lower than to source a new candidate lead. So, but then you have, 500,000 profiles of candidates available for you and up to date, in comparison to that, 800 million candidate profiles LinkedIn has, they claim, which also are partially updated, right? So you rely on the secondary data, you rely on the fact when the candidate will actually update their LinkedIn profile. So you might think you are sourcing open to work candidates, but they might not be longer open to work. So it's a money game. And I think, well, on the one hand side, it became easier to communicate via this simple example. $3 in comparison to a couple of cents. You understand how to win. But at the same time, it became a little bit more challenging to convince recruiters that this is not a nice to have solution, that this is a must have solution. So that's an interesting, it's an interesting story that we are still trying to tell.
Yeah, and I think the value of the data that you're actually paying for in that instance can vary widely, right? Of course, if you just want to make sure you have the current email, that's important, because if you can't reach them, it doesn't work. But still, it's going to take a lot more than that to know if this is even worth pursuing, and whether this is even a quality candidate at this point. Like you said, I mean, you can't rely on LinkedIn. I know people who have left jobs, and a year later, their LinkedIn still shows that they work there. But I do think one of the underlying premises of all this is everyone's a candidate, right? And so why not put some effort, use modern technology to find the best candidates regardless of their status, because you don't actually know their status. What you do know is whether they've got the right experience and skills and know-how and competency to do the job and to be successful.
No, candidate marketing is a very big topic. But yeah, and the conversion rates are extremely low if you do the cold outreach. So we also are aware of this, but we convinced that the more information you have about the candidate, the more personalized outreach you can make. So you can improve your candidate response rate by just simply at least pitching them, or I'm using my terminology, pitching them the right job. So if you have introduced them to, they didn't hear from you for 3 years or 2 years, and then out of the blue, you're introducing them to some random vacancy, which is none of their interest, what they will ask you to unsubscribe and never reach out to them, right? So this is what we also are trying to explain, that you should look beyond how you acquire the candidate or where this candidate came from, rather than what do you know about this candidate, in order to make personalized and meaningful outreach.
No, that makes total sense. Just on the AI side, you and I have talked about responsible AI and what that means, and the fact that it's not just about individuals as they sort of upskill themselves with working with AI to do so, responsibly and fairly, et cetera. It starts from when you conceptualize and design and build these solutions. So I guess I just want to get your perspective on how you approach that.
That's a very hot topic, and it's a very big discussion that we have with US customers, with European customers, because I think every jurisdiction is considering to apply certain regulation around AI, and especially in recruitment. So we made informed decision to stay away from the background checks, from background screening, and from any data interpretation. So, but our customers sometimes ask, oh, can you tell me that this person, I don't know, did any fraud in the past, or if there are any toxic comments that this person has done online? We are deliberately staying away from this. So the only sources of data and the only data that we are using are primary data. So there is nothing secondary, only what candidate has control of, what they had input themselves. So we don't work with feedbacks, or maybe, I don't know, reviews or endorsements, etc., just because we don't want to have any biased or non-subjective data be
Have you ever been to a webinar where the topic was great, but there wasn't enough time to ask questions or have a dialogue to learn more? Well, welcome to HR and Payroll 2.0, the podcast where those post-webinar questions become episodes. We feature HR practitioners, leaders, and founders of HR, payroll, and workplace innovation and transformation, sharing their insights and lessons learned from the trenches. We dig in to share the knowledge and tips that can help modern HR and payroll leaders navigate the challenges and opportunities ahead. So join us.
Be populating our profiles and in affecting our work. At the same time, we are very cautious and careful about how we process data. And this is why we can only sit on top of the CRMs and the ATSs, because we don't store, we don't save anything on our end. We are GDPR compliant, and we are also ISO compliant, just because we work with the private data. We make every parties involved informed about the ownership and informed about the liabilities. So if it's an agency and we are working with their database, we insist on the data protection agreement to be put in place. And even we are a fully integrated solution, I don't know, with Greenhouse or Bullhorn, and they are technically the guarantors of the data safety. We still insist that a recruitment agency acknowledges the responsibility on how they obtain candidate leads, that they need to have tick boxes in place that initially a candidate opted in to be stored or their data being processed by a third party. So we take this kind of exercise very, very serious, because I or you as a candidate in the past, we understand that first we don't want to have our data being parsed by a third party that you don't have a control or visibility, and at the same time you also as an owner or as a user of the data want to be on the safe side in case there are any claims or in case there are any regulations that are going to be put in place. You want to be 100% protected and assured that any third parties that you are using in order to help you with your data management are having all processes in place to be liable and to be compliant.
No, I agree. Those platforms really should own, that piece of it, and I think obviously they're the ones that are going to show, maybe like some kind of ranking or score or something like that, which certainly is the focus of the audit, not the exclusive focus of responsible AI more broadly, but certainly when it comes to measuring adverse impact and how AI might be part of a decision-making process at each phase of the hiring process, or elsewhere inside, HR. Those are the important, aspects that I guess are of the most interest to, regulators, to make sure people aren't being treated unfairly. And, I guess one of the questions that comes from that is, as you're aggregating data, are there filters that get applied to make sure that we're sort of removing any sort of demographic data that could have the decision maker or even the recruiter, injecting their own human bias?
So the core product, our database enrichment, doesn't have any filters. So we take a record, we enrich it with everything that we can possibly find associated with this person. The second product, candidate sourcing, this is where we possibly could have had any filters about bias or, background, gender, nationality, whatsoever. No, we only have filters about location, skills, and years of experience. That's it. Yeah, but I wouldn't deny that some clients requested to have more extensive filters applicable. But again, being fully integrated with the CRMs and operating under the CRM policy, we have to comply first with the national regulations and second with the certain codes and principles of the HR systems that we are sitting on top of. But again, it would be against our core values as PitchMe, because we want to make recruitment process equal and fair for everyone. One of the first versions of the product was even anonymous. So we wanted to anonymize candidate profiles to make screening more or less biased, but it wasn't really widely adopted. At least until now. Maybe things will change.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I think probably another item that is on the ATS or the CRM, right? I mean, that should be just a fundamental, whether it's a tick box or something else. I mean, should probably by default leave those tick boxes checked so that, you try to mitigate human bias and not focus on whether or not AI is biased. Because as we know, if the AI is biased, it's because the data it was fed has bias in it. So yeah, that's fair. When we think about generative AI, I was just curious so you obviously use it in your solution. I was just curious, like you personally as an entrepreneur, I mean, do you have any favorite tools or use cases that you use generative AI for?
So obviously everyone played and tried OpenAI, right? And ChatGPT. So I am using tools which help me with productivity. So I do some planners, the tools that help me with my email optimization or just simply remind me to do certain stuff. If you would say if I'm advocate and a frequent user of those solutions, no. I'm a little bit old school, because if I forget about this, I am not really, it means that it wasn't important for me. So I have a lot of people reminding me of things that I need to do, and I really don't want even AI to keep reminding me of those. But to streamline, I don't know, email outreach or payments or something like that, yes, we use that solutions.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get comfortable with how much personal information I want to share with an AI, but I know it will help. I mean, I'm certainly an optimist that we'll get through some of these bumps in the road, and you know, have the right privacy settings, and it'll still provide a lot of support. So one of the obviously the theme of this podcast is around how people sort of upskill themselves with working with AI. AI is not going away. So when you saw the title of the podcast, Elevate Your AIQ, what comes to mind? What advice would you have? I know you still have some reservations about how and where you're using it, but what advice would you give for anyone who's trying to understand how this is going to impact their career?
Well, this phrase for me suggests a focus on improving the literacy, right, and knowledge and proficiency in artificial intelligence. So, but I thought that it means something else, and as a non-native speaker, I'm just not getting it. But I think this is a very accurate title to. It kind of conveys a sense of moving forward and being at the forefront of the technological advancement and mastering AI concept and applications for your own benefit or the benefit of the organization. And by looking at all of that hype around ChatGPT that we witnessed from autumn last year, and actually the very low adoption rate of the ChatGPT on the organizational level. I don't know if you have seen the latest surveys, but majority of people were surveyed said that they are writing emails with ChatGPT, right? So, but there are so many things you can do with this. I would say that the main advice is to cut through the noise, is to really assess and critically evaluate like where you need help and where you can need, like where you cannot walk away without a human help, where you just need to make a hire, like you just said, an intern in India or AI. This debate, I think every organization has, right? But on the personal level, I would say that you would need to evaluate the aspects of life that you can give away and delegate to technology, and where are those boundaries where you don't feel comfortable technology to penetrate your personal life. So you, Bob, also a skeptic person, I can sense.
Yeah, I want people to think critically when they're using it, and yes, there's a sort of responsibility angle to that AI literacy, right? You don't have to know everything. I mean, you have to know what it's going to take to continue to succeed in your job, to not be replaced by automation and AI, to recognize that your colleagues, your manager, or your leadership team should be doing the exact same thing. I mean, it's being embedded in everything, and you've probably been using it already to some extent, at least to your point earlier around the earlier generations of AI. There's machine learning in all of our virtual assistants, which at this point seem pretty dumb, but they're getting smarter. The Siris, the Alexas, but you've got to understand what it's capable of and when yes, when to go to, that solution or that, sort of digital, worker or whatever. But in some ways, it's analogous to what organizations need to do as they do their strategic workforce planning. We've got work to be done, and let's find the optimal way to get it done and the optimal people or things to do it. Right. So I just think going forward, your talent ecosystem is really a matter of how do you optimize who does what, when, and how do we continue to provide good experiences as, data moves through a funnel or as people move through a process like hiring. And so it's a balance of using technology the right way while providing good experiences for all parties.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, Dina, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time to give our audience a lot of your insights, and we will speak again.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thanks again. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next time.